Why interest rates won't go up, at least not much. All right, so I want to take you back in time. Denise sent this to me. That's actually kind of funny. And if you probably older than 50, probably older than 55, you might remember this well. So this is from January 6th. Oh my goodness, January 6th. Oh, the day that goes down in infamy. 1985 from the Kenosha, Wisconsin, whatever the newspaper is. More if 1985 now, mind you. All right, this is after Volcker, and I can't. There's a guy who actually wrote an article about bowing at the praying to the God of Paul Volcker and how everyone just does this, and I love that. There's a good article this guy had written. I can't share it with you because it's copywritten, and they say if anyone uses this, we'll come after you. And so I was like, all right, but it's very interesting. I was like, thank goodness it's not just me who recognizes this. Oh, Paul Volcker, we bow to you. It's insanity. The sad thing about the guy who had written this article is typos in there, like Tony Blair, Blaire. No, Reagan, Regan. No, that was it Don? It was Don Regan, not Reagan. And then this guy who wrote the article is a big climate change scared guy too. But he still had good stuff on how we just the false god of Paul Volcker, and I could not agree more. And I just can't write or do a video on it because he's pretty explicit and don't use this. All right, anyway. So here we are. We see a 1 year adjustable rate with 3.5 points at 10 3/4. A 30-year fixed at 12 7/8 with 2.5 points. A 15-year at 12 5/8 with 2 points. The latest mortgage rates from the resident experts. So let's just take our trusty calculator, shall we? And what was it actually? The 30-year fix was at 12.875. And we're going to say $100,000 mortgage, and we're going to go present value. 12.875 is the interest rate. 30 years, zero future value. That would cost you. Oops, hold on a second. Why did I screw that up? What did I do? $100,000? Yeah, 100,000. Let me pause this. That would cost you $1,075 a month. All right, for a mortgage on $100,000. So basically, 1% of the value of your debt was what you'd be paying as a payment, almost 1.1%. On the other hand, a 3% mortgage would cost you $420 a month. All right, so you would save about $750 a month by refinancing a 13% debt into a 3% debt. Obviously, couldn't do that at that point. But that's what I'm showing you. So now everyone and their mom would say, well, the prices of houses must have collapsed, and they actually did not, which is pretty interesting. But the point being is that we survived those high interest rates. But let's take a look at something here. In 1985, we had all of 1.8 trillion in debt, in the federal debt, and a lot of people are freaking out by that. Oh my goodness, look, Reagan raised the deficit, the debt's not that, and he did, 100%. So we're like, we can't have low interest rates when the deficit's so high, adding to the debt, which is already 1.8 trillion. You know what the debt is now? 30 trillion, and that's just the amount of money that we see. We have unfunded liabilities in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. But anyway, so you can see the debt has gone up by 1.8 trillion to 30 trillion. And the interest rate, on the other hand, went down. Isn't that interesting? So let me point something out here. On a side note here, foreigners held 33% of publicly held U.S. debt. So we still own, United States still owns the majority of our own debt. The big, I wouldn't say the vast majority, but 2/3 of all debt we have is owned by us, United States citizens, and our governments and various entities within the U.S. All right, so I just always point that out because what if China sells our bonds? We're going to crash. Nah, it won't. Another side note, I've always agreed with this. The share of U.S. government debt held by foreign governments has grown from 13% to 34%. So basically tripled while our debt burden was growing. Yeah, they got a quote from Paul Krugman, which I don't care. But if all these foreign governments were so worried about us, they wouldn't be buying our debt like they have in just bunches and bunches. Interesting, they say China has been retreated in both maximum holdings, reduced to 5% in 2018. So China has reduced its holding of our debt, which hasn't really done much to affect our economy, has it now? No, it hasn't. Anyway, so I was trying to see how much we actually pay on interest on the debt. Hold on a second. And how much we actually pay on the interest on the debt. This is from Motley Fool, and it only goes back to 2015. But you can see right here, we're paying. Actually, we're still lower than we were in the mid 90s. We did have a balanced budget for a couple of years because of the Republican Congress. Debt payments went down, obviously, because of interest rates going down. But anyway, the interest rates have flatlined, or the amount of interest to cost to service the debt as of 2015 flatlined. I didn't really feel like, well, maybe I'll do it just to see what we're at now. But anyway, the point being is we're paying right here. Where was it? I saw it on here someplace. $230 billion in 2015. So we're basically paying about $300 billion this fiscal year, which is in 2021. Let's see. Even with exceptionally low interest rates, the United States is expected to spend over $300 billion to service its debts in 2021. That's the equivalent of 9% of all federal revenue collections. 9%. Yeah. Growing debt and rising interest rates will increase interest costs. As a result of recent rate declines, interest payments will decline from $375 billion in 2019 to $300 in this year. Now that but we've added $7 trillion of new debt, and the interest rates have gone up. Interesting. So let's keep reading here. If rates rise as CBO projects, interest costs will more than double to $846 billion. By 2031. Higher interest rates would further increase costs. All right. We project interest spending to total $5.1 trillion over the next 10 years, yet the interest rate on the 10-year Treasury bond is already more than half a percentage point higher than projected. If all rates end up being 50 basis points above projections, interest costs would increase by $1.7 trillion. Interest spending would increase by $3.6 trillion if rates were 1% higher. All right, so what does that mean? All right, so Phil Graham had written this article in May 21st of 2013 in the Wall Street Journal. I remember reading this, and back then I was then convinced that the rates aren't going to go much higher. They can't. So let me read you just one paragraph. Since the end of the World War II era, the average maturity of outstanding federal debt has been about 5 years. And the average interest cost on a 5-year Treasury note has been about 5.9%. At this interest rate, the expected cost, and he calls it the Obama debt burden, and remember, we didn't have nearly the level of debt we have now. This is in 2013. 2013, 10 years ago. We did not have $30 trillion in debt. So check this out. So if the interest rates go back to the average of 5.9% on a 5-year Treasury, the interest rate would be expected to pay $590 billion in annual interest rate. This is 10 years ago, exceeding the current annual cost of any federal program except Social Security. That was written 10 years ago when we had a hell of a lot less debt than we have now. We can't afford interest rates to go up. We can't. Which is one of the things that Japan is going through right now. They're saying the interest rates go up. They say it can't. So they're buying up their own debt like crazy. And everyone's like, oh, Japan. Some guy was saying Japan's going to collapse. I mean, maybe anything can happen, but we can't afford interest rates to go that much higher. We can't. So right now, the 10-year Treasury is still at 3.2, I think. And you'll see it's just leveled off, man. Now, they might raise again another 75 basis points. Yeah, there it is, 3.179. So, the Jerome Powell and whatnot might raise again. They're only going to raise again to try to keep some level of confidence that the Fed can do anything. So they're going to raise the interest rates to show everybody they're raising the interest rates. And then and the economy will sink, not because the interest rates have raised, but because the economy is in the world of hurt as it is right now because of all the cost of energy. It has nothing to do with the federal government raising or lowering. But then what will happen is they say, we beat inflation because we raised interest rates. And then what they'll do is they'll reduce interest rates again. You can see this. This is so obvious to me. They'll raise another 50 basis points and whenever they meet next. And then they'll say, okay, we'll sit tight, see how the elections go, see how the stuff shakes out by the end of the year. Then they're going to lower to go, okay, the economy, we got to clean it up now because the economy is in recession. People are hurting. This is why you can't, on top of that, you can't afford the debt as a normal interest rate. You just can't. There's no money there. So look, anything could happen. But the idea that all these porn, freaking fear porn people are like, oh my goodness, we're going to go back to 1980s and 70s. From an interest rate perspective, we can't. Our hands are tied, man. And we still own all of our bonds. 66% of all of our debt we own. All right? Yeah. All right, love to hear your thoughts. Just don't listen to the porn crap. I'm so sick of these people, man. It's like, oh, everything's going to crash. I mean, anything could happen. But this isn't likely. All right, we'll see you.